Yeah, videotaping rollers is great, but there's nothing like just watching them live. Kind of like, even like a band or music. You know, when you see a band live and then you hear them on record, you know, live is still best. The recording is great because you can go back time after time and see it again and again, or listen to it again and again. So I guess there's good and bad for both. I did this video clip this way, showing birds, good, what I consider some good quality rollers, rather than just having you stare at me on a video screen. Thought it'd be more interesting for you to see some of the rollers that I consider quality rollers. And if nothing else, some of them are just really good lookers. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. This is a story about the family of pigeons that I'm working on, called the Mr. USA family. And the reason I call them the Mr. USA family is a bit of a story, and I'll try and tell it the best I can. Basically, I'd been into rollers for a couple of years and still hadn't found what I wanted. And I had gotten another friend of mine interested in rollers, and he was a racing pigeon guy, but he got into rollers, and he had the chance to import some birds from the States along with some racing pigeons, so he did. And as a friendly gesture, he raised me 10 youngsters off these pairs that he imported. So I flew the youngsters, and 3 out of the 10 really kind of stood out. One I lost, and the other 2 really stood out. I really liked them. So I asked my friend that if he was ever going to sell those 2 pairs or raise me some more youngsters off them. And he actually eventually ended up selling me the 2 pairs, and so then I started breeding off them. The black cockbird that I called Mr. USA, he just seemed to always produce good birds for the next couple seasons that I bred him, and it didn't seem to matter what hen I put him with. So then I finally put him with a hen that I got from a friend of mine that came from a long line of breeding, and the fellow that had bred them had purchased these birds from Ken Billings, and he's had them for a number of years and has bred nothing else into them. And he had brought these hens down and just for me to look at, and I really liked this one, and I asked him if he'd mind, you know, if I could buy it off him or trade him something for it, and so we made a deal. That mating was exceptionally good. I got 2 cockbirds that were probably the fastest rollers I had seen up to that time. The one was a little deeper than I could keep at my place living in the city, so I gave it to a friend of mine, and it's still doing fine. It's a little bigger bird than I like, but it spins great and is a little bit on the deep side. Whereas the one I kept, he's, I think, a little bit faster, a little bit smaller. Just a great bird to watch. So now I've stalked him, and the reason I stalked him, I wasn't going to stalk him, but unfortunately I lost the hen. So that left me in kind of a predicament. So I wanted to keep at least this young cockbird off him, or off the pair I should say. So then the next season, just as a test, I had raised this young little hen, and I just really liked her. Everything about her, just to look at, she just seemed to have everything going for her, and plus she was a really good looking bird. So I thought, just as a test, I'm not even going to fly this hen. So I mated her to Mr. USA, and they bred me quite a few youngsters that looked pretty good and flew good. And one is my favorite cockbird to this day, and that's 10 years I've been raising rollers, and I call him Darkwing, and he is my absolute favorite. And I have stocked him in 2012, and I don't like to stock a bird that early, but unfortunately I ran into some more complications this year, as the mother of Darkwing was actually stolen from me, and I don't know how they picked it out, because I know they were just young kids, but they actually stole that pigeon and the 3 other hens that I had bred off of her and Mr. USA as just stock birds that I had planned on doing more experiments with. So I was back to square one. So now I got 2 cockbirds off Mr. USA that I think are 2 of my best birds. And the reason I like Darkwing slightly better is because he does every type of roll. And I know there's lots of people that probably don't want that type of roller, but for me he's the ultimate roller. And I think it shows his intelligence, because he can go, just above the lines, and he'll just do a few flips, nothing spectacular, but he just looks like he's enjoying himself. He'll get up a little bit higher and he'll start doing 10 to 20 foot spins, and sometimes they won't be as fast as they should be, but then other times he'll just be a little blur. And then he'll get up high and he'll just do some really deep ones, and some of them won't be as fast, but some will be a blur also. So I just like that. To me, it just is a sign of intelligence of the bird. And if I had a whole kit of those, I'd be one happy camper. So that's the start of the Mr. USA line. And fortunately, I had 1 hen left that was off of Mr. USA from the second mating. And it's a little black hen, and it actually was Darkwing's nestmate. And I had stocked it even earlier just because I actually thought it was a really tiny cockbird, and I just wanted to keep it around as a replacement in case anything happened to Mr. USA. But it ended up being a hen. So now she is going to be mated to Mr. USA again this year, and I'm going to try and get 10 youngsters off them, and we'll see how that goes. And I also have, now from that mating, I have a couple extra hens that would be half sisters to Jack Flash, which is the first Czech cockbird that I got off of Mr. USA that I stocked. And then I have a couple full sisters to Darkwing. So I'm going to try that mating too, just to see what happens. And hopefully this season I'll get 10 youngsters off each bird, so that'll be 30 youngsters. And I'll try and keep everybody posted on the internet. Hopefully I'll get some video shots of them in the air and also on the ground, just to show what they look like. And hopefully I can give some percentages of how many do well out of that 30. So I hope you enjoyed this little video clip, and I always look forward to hearing from other people, so please email me anytime. Let me know what you think of this type of format versus just a magazine or something. Take care. I also have 1 young hen off Jack Flash, mated to one of his half-sisters before she was stolen. So hopefully she'll help with this family of birds also.